Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm chatting with John Proust from Japan Gold. In today's interview, we talk about the gold market and what's happening right now in the world and what it could mean for gold prices. And we get right into Japan Gold, which I think is one of the most interesting stories in all of junior mining. And we can see that I'm not the only one who thinks that because the company has partnerships and investments from the likes of Barrick and Newmont and Osisko. So, guys, enjoy the interview. John, it's good to see you again.
Steve, glad to be with you.
So, I thought we should start off just talking about the broad gold market because the last few months, gold has been on fire. We've been hearing about some runs on gold over at the Bank of England. There's obviously quite a bit of tariff talk since Donald Trump was inaugurated. He's come in, throwing quite a bit of smoke in terms of tariffs, which I believe has had an impact on the price of gold. Now, I'm curious, you are obviously in the gold space. You're CEO of a gold company. You've raised a bunch of money for a gold company. I'm sure that you are following the macro environment a bit. What's going through your head right now?
Well, look, I think all gold miners and explorers should be delighted to see gold in the $3,000 range. Most of us, really didn't envision that for much of our career until recent times. So, fantastic, great to see that, and hopefully the price of gold is accelerated ahead of some of the costs that I think miners have seen increasing over the last number of years. I saw a really interesting graph just a couple of days ago, which I thought was interesting relating to the United States. And as the debt in the United States increases, so has the price of gold moved up with that over time. And I think under a Trump administration, notwithstanding the fact that you've got Elon Musk and Doge out there trying to create efficiencies, I think there's only going to be more debt. And as there's more debt, I think we could see potentially an increasing price of gold. So from a macro standpoint, the price is up there. But the question is really, who's interested in the gold market? Has this recent movement caught everybody's attention? And what level of investors? Is it institutions? Is it retail? Is it high net worth? Is it family offices? It's kind of looking across that range. And I think we've picked who we think are the best investors in our recent announcements.
What's it like right now being in the Canadian junior markets in terms of the appetite of investors when you talk with, perhaps the shareholders that you have now, or I'm sure you chat with some institutional investors. From our perspective, things were really picking up in October, and then Trump got elected, and then basically the junior markets are sort of at a standstill.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what's the sentiment like right now that you're gauging?
Sure. Well, I think overall the market is skitterish because of the sort of the Trump administration shotgun approach to so many different very controversial matters and topics. So people are just going, whoa, whoa, whoa. This is we're just trying to get our feet under us. We're sort of on ice in running shoes. So that's kind of been part of it. Our company is a bit unique because we have 63% of our shares are held by large international institutions. So there's 12 institutions around the world, including BlackRock and RCF and Rothschilds and Equinox partners, groups like this that have our shares and have got into the thesis of Japan and the resurgence of the gold mining industry. So it's quite unique there. What I have also seen, though, is that while there is this enthusiasm and gold's on a lot more minds than I'd say a year ago or even 6 months ago, the fact of the matter is that institutions really have a liquidity requirement now for their ongoing or further investments, which most small cap companies can't match. They require more liquidity, and it's really practical when you think about it. If they're buying 10 million shares of a company's of stock, they're going to have to look at can they ultimately sell that over time, and if it's not available in terms of liquidity, doesn't make sense to invest. So it doesn't matter about the management or the fundamentals or the location or whatever. That's just gone to the top of their decision making criteria. So I think that source of capital may be reduced. Following on that, retail shareholders, now they're starting to wake up a little bit here. So, I am hearing from more brokers that people are looking at small caps, small opportunities, but where there's really large upside, really large potential. And then they're going into our wheelhouse, which companies are de-risked. And so, of course, we're de-risked by the fact that we have, the two largest gold miners in the world associated with us, with Newmont being a shareholder, and with Barrick being in our partnership with us in our strategic alliance. As I mentioned, we've got a large number of institutions which have already participated with us. And then just recently, and as I think the whole market that's following us has seen in the last week, we've announced a royalty transaction. And that's something I'd really like to talk to you about. The royalty, and just to the royalty providers. So they kind of filled in many ways with producers or very near-term producers, some of the funding that maybe the institutions have just, backed away from due to those liquidity constraints. So the royalty providers, all the big ones that you know about, like Osisko and Wheaton and Franco, they're at the table now, and they're busier than ever.
So I wanted to ask you about that royalty. So you guys announced a royalty deal with Osisko, which seems like a pretty big deal for an early stage asset like what you guys have. What interested Osisko and what led to you guys wanting to sign the deal?
Yeah. We so to talk about Osisko, first of all, we've been keeping in touch with, and we've actually been pursued by the largest royalty groups out there, the ones that I've mentioned, like Wheaton and Franco and Osisko and Royal Gold, and that collection. And it's interesting because with Osisko, probably for 5 years now, I would say we've been discussing Japan with them, seeing them probably once or twice a year. Now, what they're specifically looking for, and we're very, very unique. So we're not a usual investment for Osisko, is that they're looking for, again, geological or geographical diversity. They're looking for very significant upside with discoveries that can be made. And they're, again, looking in areas that are geopolitically safe. And so for Osisko and for us, it was a perfect marriage because Osisko took a chance on us. Usually if you had a company that doesn't have resources, doesn't have reserves, that wouldn't be something that they would be able to get through their investment committee. But in this case, Japan is very, very unique. With our first mover advantage into Japan, our ability to put together the portfolio we put together, and then go through a number of years of de-risking that and focusing our efforts into where we're going to make the best discoveries. Osisko felt that we were at a point now where their dollars could be maybe that last piece that allows us to go in and drill some of our very best targets. And that's precisely what we're going to do, and as quickly as possible.
Are there any sort of requirements of what you have to spend the money on, or any conditions on where that money has to go that you guys receive from
Absolutely.
the royalty? Yep.
Yeah. So our portfolio of projects is really broken down into two pieces. We have the Barrick Alliance projects, of which there's 3 of them that cover 5 targets. And those projects that are in the Barrick Alliance are not included in the Osisko royalty transaction. If one of those projects is dropped by Barrick, then it would fall into the Osisko royalty basket. So basically, what Osisko has said is, let's take all the other projects that you've got. So this relates to the rest of our portfolio across Japan. And then you, Japan Gold, pick your very best targets. And our discovery lead is Fraser McCorkadale, the past head of global discovery for Newcrest. So he's leading the charge there and has spent the last 9 months really collaborating with some of his best subject matter experts in geology and geophysics and geochemistry and modeling to look at the incredible data that we've assembled over the last number of years and to pick his best targets. And so that's the portfolio that the Osisko dollars are moving towards. So of the dollars that Osisko has provided to us, it was a an $8 million total face, that US dollar, 8 million, total face number, but it's really in two tranches. The first tranche is 5 million US dollars. And those 5 million US dollars, 75% of that money is going into the ground to advance our very best targets, which is, again, a great percentage to see going into the ground, and and something we want to, move on very, very quickly. In a year from now, Osisko has the option to provide us with another 3 million US dollars and increase the royalty from the initial stake, which is 1.5% across our portfolio, to 2%. Should we meet some of their gating needs or their milestones? And so that gives us an awful lot of running room, because in 2025, we're going to have Barrick, the best targets being drilled. We're drilling them sequentially right now, and we should be finished by about July of this year. And then we'll be drilling our very best targets outside the Barrick Alliance with the Osisko dollars. So if you look at what 2025 looks like, it's drilling multiple targets that are the best ones selected by Barrick or selected by Fraser McCorkindale and our discovery team, and that are being funded by Osisko or being fully funded by Barrick in the Barrick Alliance projects case.
Okay, so John, since we last spoke, you guys announced some exploration results. What can you tell us?
Right. So Barrick has 3 projects that they've selected have the potential to host a tier 1 or tier 2 ore body. So late in 2024, we drilled the very first project, and it had one target on that project. The Togi project was what it's called. And this is an area that's very unique. It's an area that's analogous to the Sado mine, which is on an adjacent island, and was the largest past producing gold mine in Japan. And so this is an area that Barrick and ourselves really liked. It had 2 small historic mines that were about 5 kilometers apart. And our sampling and our geophysics, et cetera, really highlighted a significant corridor between those 2 mines. So what Barrick wanted to do with this first drill program was to drill 2 holes under one portion of that 5 kilometer long trend, and to drill 2 holes that were 350 meters apart and identify, was there a significant system, a large system that would be attractive to Barrick in terms of the scale and its potential to host, a tier 1 or tier 2 ore body. And the good news is that we encountered that system in both holes, and we've identified that not only does it have, broad extent along this trend, but also we had very good indications that we could go a little bit deeper and find, significant accumulations of gold. So great first target. We've drilled that now. And again, we're on to the second target in April or May, depending on when the snow melts up in Hokkaido. And then from there, or at the same time, simultaneously, another project down in southern Japan, which is right next door to the Hishikari gold mine. There are 3 targets across that project, and we expect to be drilling at least 2 of those with 3 holes, again, in that sort of April-May timeline. And just to remind your audience and just to talk about this, that third project and the targets right next door to it is directly next door to the Hishikari gold mine. And the Hishikari gold mine is now over 14 million ounces. They produced in excess of 9 million ounces to date, with an average grade of 30 grams plus. And we're seeing with our work, our detailed work in geophysics, geochemistry, et cetera, that we're seeing 3 signatures or targets on our ground with Barrick that have a very similar signature to the Hishikari mine. So we're very excited to get in and drill those targets.
So, John, I've asked you this before, and I'm going to ask it again just because there's going to be people who are watching this interview for the first time and they're totally new to Japan Gold. the the biggest thing we hear from people in our network, if we mention Japan Gold, is that it's just doesn't sound like the kind of country that is going to want mining projects to move forward. And perhaps that's a Canadian thing where we're so used to the Canadian government getting in the way of mining projects. What can you tell our audience to get comfort with the idea that if you guys did hit something, you could take it into the development stage?
Great. Excellent question. And I've got two responses for you on that. So one is the Hishikari gold mine that I just referred to is an asset that's owned by Sumitomo Metal Mining. And again, 14 million ounces and very, very high grade. Now, that ore body was discovered accidentally. It was discovered in 1981. And by 1985, they were in production. So in 4 short years, they went from discovery hole accidentally to being in production. So clearly worked. And they have a very unique case there because about 85% of their ore is it's a low sulfidation epithermal gold system. So it's quartz veins. That material is mined, it's brought to surface, and then directly shipped to their smelter. And about 10 to 15% of the ore is sent to a very large cyanide plant, which is not too far away and that's been operating since the 1950s and has very significant excess capacity. So that's sort of near history, but that's still, a number of years ago, several decades ago. So then you go to where are we today? In 2012, the government changed the Mining Act to invite foreign companies to come in to restart the gold mining industry because the communities where the closed gold mines are that were closed in 1943 by the Japanese government in the middle of the Second World War, those mines that were closed after being fully operational have not been reopened yet. And so there's a large collection of those in Hokkaido in the north and in Kyushu in the south. And so they want to either restart those mines or make new discoveries in those same regions. Those areas have become very economically depressed. So they want to actually restart the economies, the regional economies in those areas. This last 2-week visit that I was in Japan, and I'm there very regularly, I was in Hokkaido and I was meeting with the major stakeholders across Hokkaido, which is like the largest physical province or prefecture in Japan. And we were meeting with not only the central government of Japan, which is the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry. We were also meeting with the Hokkaido government. We were meeting with the various forestry offices. And then we were meeting with the local towns, the local town councils. And in this case, I met with 2 mayors in 2 of the towns that are involved in their activities there. And across the board, I got support, significant support for our activities. They welcomed the efforts that we've made to date. They encouraged us to move as quickly as possible to make discoveries and put mines into production. And so there was a real galvanizing of that. And that was further demonstrated by our abilities recently to accelerate the permitting process in terms of its timeline to compress the permitting process in Japan to shorten it by almost 40% in our recent efforts. So we're seeing support at the federal level, at the prefectural or provincial level, at the local level, and there's a very clear historical event at the Hishikari mine that has demonstrated how quickly a discovery can get to production.
So Kaye Barker was added to the company's advisory board in January. What's the expectation here? Maybe can you give us a little bit of color on this?
Absolutely. We were delighted to, and I personally was delighted to have Kaye Barker join our advisory board. Kaye, for many people that don't know, was a fund manager at BlackRock for many years, better part of a decade or more. And he has a very unique skill set. On the one hand, he's a geologist. And at BlackRock, he was the person that was reviewing many, if not all of the mining projects that BlackRock was investing. He's also been a very well thought of mining analyst and gold mining analyst based in London, which is where he resides. But then in addition to that, he was then a fund manager, and he was managing about $13 billion at BlackRock. And about 6 years ago, I was introduced to BlackRock, and BlackRock made a significant investment in Japan Gold and has been an investor with us ever since. And Kaye brings an additional set of skills that are helpful. He speaks Japanese, has lived in Japan, and he happens to be married to a Japanese gal as well. And he's also been very, very involved in the martial arts community, which is more of an aside, but really brought him to Japan in many respects as well. So Kaye left BlackRock about a year ago, and I reached out to him and I said, yeah, and he's always been enthusiastic about Japan, but I said, you should come and be involved with us. Come on board initially as an advisor and just immerse yourself in what we're doing, and then we'll see what the future holds and where you'll go from there. And so Kaye just joined me on the trip that I just took to Japan for the last couple of weeks, and again participated in or shadowed me in all the meetings, whether it was with government officials up in Hokkaido, in Tokyo, meeting with the Japanese External Trade Organization, meeting with the heads of METI in Tokyo, or whether it was coming into our office and really getting to know our very small, focused, team that we have there that handles permitting and our operations in country, et cetera. And he came away with a very, very positive view. He actually has his own blog, and he already has put out a couple of comments relative to his trips to Japan, but certainly has been highly supportive. And I look forward to him being a really integral part of our company as we work out the precise nature of his involvement. But great to have him there as an advisor. And again, the other point is that because he's looked at so many companies across the world, and he can then compare Japan Gold to what he's seen out there, with also having that Japanese lens. Again, I think that's further reinforcement that an individual like Kaye Barker, that he would be involved with Japan Gold and want to take on that role.
So, John, last question for you. If I am an investor watching this interview, or I am doing my homework, I have you guys on my watch list as one of the junior names that I find interesting. What does 2025 look like? What am I watching out for in terms of timelines, milestones, that sort of stuff?
Sure. So 2025 is probably the inflection year for Japan Gold. We've been there since 2012. And since 2012, we've been restarting the industry. We've been doing massive programs of geochemistry, geophysics, et cetera. And we've identified what we think are the best areas in Japan. We've also highlighted or been very clear on what our target is. And our minimum target is 1 million ounces at 7 grams per ton, which is will be very, very profitable in Japan, and especially with the current gold prices. So we've identified all those things, and we've now really, with a laser, focused in with Barrick and focused in with our own portfolio on our best targets for discovery. So from an investor that's watching what we're doing right now and maybe been sitting on the sidelines, now's the time to get involved, because we're funded. We're well funded with one of the biggest royalty groups in the world now, again, de-risking our portfolio, and we're working with us. We've de-risked it in the other areas that I've described previously, and it's about drilling. So I'd expect our first drilling for 2025 to start in March. And these are quick, short, very focused programs, and then results to follow. And we'll be drilling in March, April, May, and I think we'll continue right through the year. So we're right now, again, at that inflection point where we just demonstrated with the Togi results that I spoke about that there's a large system in Japan. We think there's more, and we think that some of the drilling that we're going to do is going to encounter not only large systems, but I think results that would be impressive for investors getting involved. And of course, relate to a change in our share price and an upward movement and a re-rating when any kind of discovery goal is made.
John, thanks for hopping on here. I think you've got one of the most interesting projects in all of junior mining, as you're pretty unique being in Japan. And hopefully you'll keep coming back on here in the future as you go and make a major discovery and get to tell our audience about it.
Thanks, Steve. We're looking to a very strong 2025. So I look forward to updating you again soon.
All right, everybody, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this interview, please smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Also, let me know what you think in the comment section. Thanks for watching, everyone.